as mentioned by the former government, and if so, will the findings be tabled?
Thank you. As for the flood allowance that I mentioned, the assessment has been made by the police. The police member certifying that their premises have been flooded and their foodstuff have been damaged. So this allowance is paid by my ministry. As for the fund payable from Prime Minister's Relief Fund, I'm not aware of the criteria upon which the assessment was made, but I will look into it. And come back to the honourable member in due course.
Yes. Honourable second member for Grand B, Poudre
B 372.
Madam Speaker, the 20 Pieds B45 road connects the villages of Grand Bay and Cap Malheureux and may be divided into 4 stretches, namely stretch 1 from roundabout near La Croisette to junction with Plaine des Papayes Road, B11 road near Shell filling station of an approximate length of 1 kilometer. Stretch 2 from its junction with Plaine des Papayes, B11 road to its junction with Vieux Moulin, B165 road over an approximate length of 1.2 kilometers. Stretch 3 from its junction with Vieux Moulin, B165 road to the first roundabout of Cap Malheureux bypass over an approximate length of 2.2 kilometers. And stretch 4 from the first roundabout of Cap Malheureux bypass to its junction with the Montsoisy Cap Malheureux B13 road over an approximate length of 1.6 kilometers. Madam Speaker, I'm informed by the RDA that the stretch 2 and stretch 4 are in fairly good conditions. As regards other stretches of the 20 Pieds B45 road, during the current financial year 2024-2025, the RDA will proceed with resurfacing works along stretch 3, namely from Vieux Moulin B165 road to the first roundabout of the Cap Malheureux bypass. A works order to the tune of 12.5 million has already been issued in this respect, and works are expected to start in the 3rd week of April and will be completed by the end of the month. Madam Speaker, I'm informed that as regards stretch 1, from La Croisette roundabout to its junction with Plaine des Papayes B11 road, the presence of cracks and settlements have been noted. The RDA has accordingly earmarked funds for resurfacing works along that stretch during the financial year 2025-2026.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the Honourable Minister inform the House whether the resurfacing works at Chemin 20 Pieds, Grand Bay, includes additional improvements such as drainage upgrades, pedestrian pathways, or street lighting to enhance road safety? Thank you.
Madam Speaker, the original question concerned the resurfacing of an existing road. So there is no additional work, drain works, or lighting. But anyway, I'll ask RDA to carry out a survey, and if need be, we'll see to do the needful if funds are available.
Of course. Thank you, Minister. Now have Mr. Second Member for Rivière des Anguilles, Mr. Drummond.
Thank you, Madam. Question B373, please.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, according to information obtained from the Ministry of Housing and Lands, I'm informed that there were initially 3,013 ex-CHA EDC housing units containing cemented asbestos sheets constructed in the 1960s over 59 sites island-wide. Of these, 366 were found in constituency number 13, Rivière des Anguilles and Souillard. According to a joint survey carried out by officers of the Ministry of Housing and Lands and the Solid Waste Management Division of my ministry in year 2022, there remain a total of 1,453 ex-CHA EDC housing units that need to be dismantled. Out of the initial 366 houses in constituency number 13, some 162 had already been demolished, with remaining 204 houses. With regards to part A of the question, there is no specific time frame for demolition of these housing units, as requests for dismantling emanate from the owner directly or through the Citizen Support Unit, local authorities, the Ministry of Housing and Lands, and CEB officers, and are thus attended to on a case-to-case basis. Since 2015, the Solid Waste Management Division of my ministry procures the services of contractors for the dismantling of houses containing asbestos and disposal thereof. Requests received from owners are thus directed to the contractor for necessary action. A total of 218 housing units containing asbestos have thus been dismantled around the island from 2015 to 2024. A new bidding exercise is being undertaken at the level of the Solid Waste Division of my ministry for dismantling, removal and disposal of cemented asbestos sheets from ex-CHA EDC houses for a contract period of 24 months. It is expected to have a new contract by end of this month. Madam Speaker, I am also informed that all the targeted housing units could not be dismantled for the following reasons. A, very few requests for the dismantling of asbestos houses are being received. B, many applicants are not owners of the housing units. They are either heirs or tenants without any formal document, and in many cases are either abroad or untraceable. It becomes difficult for the Ministry of Housing and Lands to establish ownership of the houses. C, in cases of unoccupied houses where notices have been served, affixed by local authorities, and whose owners could not be traced during the survey, intervene just prior to demolition of these houses and prevent the dismantling thereof. And D, owners and occupiers also request for the reconstruction of their houses or for financial assistance prior to giving their consent for dismantling of the houses. Mr. Speaker, as regards part B of the question, my ministry will consult the Ministry of Housing and Lands to come up with a redeployment plan to address all the mentioned issues, as there is no redeployment plan.
Thank you, Minister. Yes.
Thank you, Minister. Can the Minister, I request, try to arrange a meeting with all the inhabitants concerned and propose them alternatives, such as there are new houses that will be offered at Suivez. So can we arrange a meeting with the inhabitants? Thank you.
Definitely, Madam Speaker, my colleague, we have spoken, and we are moving in that direction once the Minister of Housing and Lands comes back.
Okay, thank you. Now we have Mr. Rukni, member for Pamplemousse. Monsieur the
Thank you.
Deputy Pamplemousse Triolet. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question B 375.
Madam Speaker, the sustained inadequate rainfall over recent months has resulted in a significant decline in water levels in the Landicollier Reservoir and Midlands Dam. Consequently, the Water Resources Monitoring Committee under the Minister of Energy and Public Utilities had to impose stringent conditions on water usage for irrigation through a series of regulations enacted under the Central Water Authority Act. In fact, since December 2022, restrictions have been consistently imposed on irrigation of sugarcane through consecutive promulgation of a series of dry season regulations under the Central Water Authority Act. Also, the Central Water Authority, by virtue of its act, has priority of use over all water resources in times of drought, therefore penalizing the Irrigation Authority. Consequently, the Irrigation Authority has had to cease all irrigation of sugarcane since August 2024. In contrast, vegetable crops are receiving only a minimal allocation of irrigation, 3 hours for 2 days a week. which is grossly inadequate for ensuring viable crop production. Madam Speaker, regarding part A of the question, I wish to inform the House that approximately 3,200 hectares of land in the northern region, occupied by some 3,500 small planters and 3 corporate planters reliant on Lanicollier Reservoir, have experienced irreversible effects on yield growth and overall crop development. A preliminary assessment of the impact of the prevailing drought has been made as follows, and I will circulate the relevant document. The revenue of planters is expected to decrease by 718,512,000 rupees. A committee has been established at the Irrigation Authority, comprising of various stakeholders, including Mauritius Cane Industry Authority, the Food and Agricultural Research Extension Institute, the Small Farmers Welfare Fund, and leader planters from the region. This committee is tasked with assessing the impacts of the drought and proposing effective mitigation strategies. The Sugar Insurance Fund Board and Small Plant Farmers Welfare Fund shall be consulted on the way forward for compensation to small planters. Madam Speaker, as regards part B of the question, my ministry has, in response to these challenges, come up with several immediate and transitionary support measures aimed at assisting planters in navigating through this difficult period until the detailed assessment as detailed below, and I will highlight them. As I say, just there to give relief to the planters. In order to alleviate the financial burden on affected planters, my ministry has decided to forego the collection of irrigation dues, totaling some 10 million rupees from sugarcane planters impacted by these restrictions for the year 2024-2025 fiscal year. Furthermore, as part of next year's budgetary proposal, my ministry is advocating for financial assistance package, and in respect of one specific area, 3.5 million rupees has been earmarked to support small sugarcane planters in replanting their fields at Pointe Pima. The Irrigation Authority has started a project in order to replace its pivot system with drip system, which allow for more efficient use of available and scarce water resources. Recognizing that the cost of drip irrigation equipment poses a significant financial challenge for small planters, we are offering financial assistance of 50,000 rupees per hectare to facilitate the purchase of drip irrigation system by small sugarcane planters. Also, the strategies which will be adopted in order to mitigate the effect of the annually recurring drought will consist of the following. A, construction of retention basins, mini dam, along rivers so as to store water for irrigation. B, construction of water harvesting infrastructure and storage basin in agricultural areas. C, shifting towards more water-efficient irrigation methods, such as drip irrigation, in contrast to overhead irrigation. And if need be, we'll make use of drones to ensure that there's that there's efficient use of water and fertilizers. D, promotion of the cultivation of drought-resistant crop varieties that are better suited to our changing climatic conditions. E, training and support to planters and adoption of water-efficient and climate-smart agricultural practices. All these measures shall be discussed in detail in the forthcoming Assises de l'Agriculture. Madam Speaker, the rainfall pattern over the past years and the consequential water supply regime appear to be establishing a new normal, necessitating a comprehensive reassessment of our medium and long-term agricultural and irrigation strategies for the Northern Plain. With the collaboration of the Ministry of Energy and Public Utilities, We're exploring the development of new water resources to ensure the sustainability of our agricultural sector.
Thank you, Minister. Yes, Mr. Oti.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I gather from information provided by my Minister, Honourable Minister, that some 3,000 planters of the North have seen their revenues depleted by some 718 million rupees, which effectively means they have been asphyxiated, and which also means that it will cause them significant difficulty to restart their activities once we have adequate water. Will the Minister advise if consideration will be given to compensate these planters in order to allow them to put food on our tables? Thank you.
We're already being given accompanying measures, but I grant you it's a tough situation due to the vagaries of climatic condition, but in the light of ongoing discussion, ongoing pre-budgetary discussion, you can rest assured we'll do our level best to respond to the needs of this afflicting community.
Thank you, Minister. Your next question.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question B376.
Sorry. Madam Speaker, I'm informed that the protocols put in place for various programs run by the Harm Reduction Unit is a protocol de prise en charge de l'usage des drogues à Maurice, which has been validated in March 2023. The protocol has been designed to ensure consistent and effective patient care. It defines the diagnostic procedures, treatment guidelines, patient management, safety measures, and ethical considerations. These relate to drug users who consume illicit substances, including heroin, synthetic drugs, cannabis, and cocaine. The medical treatment of heroin addiction typically involves a combination of medication-assisted treatment, MAT. It uses medications to alleviate withdrawal symptoms, reduce cravings, and prevent relapse. The most common medication used include methadone, buprenorphine, naltrexone, and naloxone. Synthetic drugs, also known as new psychoactive substances, NPS, or a diverse and rapidly changing group of substances. This makes it difficult to develop specific medications to counteract their effects. The effects of synthetic drugs can be unpredictable and vary widely depending on the specific substance and the individual using it. There are generally no specific medications to reverse the effects of most synthetic drugs. Treatment focuses on managing the acute symptoms such as agitation, psychosis, and seizures. Cocaine is a highly addictive stimulant, and there are currently no FDA-approved medications specifically for cocaine addiction. While cannabis is often considered less addictive than other substances, chronic use can lead to cannabis use disorder. There are currently no FDA-approved medications specifically for cannabis addiction. It is essential to address that any co-occurring mental health disorders can significantly impact substance use. The protocol focuses on the psychosocial support and rehabilitation aspect for people who use drugs. These constitute vital components of effective drug addiction. Drug addiction is not simply a physical dependence. It is a complex condition that affects an individual's brain chemistry, emotional well-being, social relationship, and overall life functioning. Therefore, treatment must address all these factors, not just the physical aspect of withdrawal. Madam Speaker, with regard to Part B of the question, I'm informed that the amount of funds spent over the past 3 years for methadone substitution therapy program is around 165 million rupees. From end of 2021 to May 2022, the National Audit Office conducted a performance audit on enhancing the effectiveness of intervention related to drug demand and harm reduction. The NAO also carried out a performance audit at the levels of National Drug Secretariat, Ministry of Health and Wellness, and other stakeholders, including non-governmental organizations involved in the fight against drug use. The audit focused mainly on the following: adequacy and effectiveness of drug use prevention activities, 2, adequacy and effectiveness of drug use disorder treatment, rehabilitation, and social integration activities, and adequate coverage and effectiveness of harm reduction intervention. The recommendations of the NAO are being implemented by the Harm Reduction Unit. Madam Speaker, with regard to Part C of the question, in June 2016, 4,591 drug addicts were on the methadone substitution therapy program. In February 2025, the number increased to 8,851. It is accepted worldwide that the assessment of recovery from drug addiction is inherently complex owing to the multifaceted nature of addiction itself. In essence, the complexity of assessing drug addiction recovery stems from multidimensional factors such as individual variability and the dynamic nature of the recovery process itself, amongst others. This accounts as to why the exact number of drug addicts salvaged cannot be assessed precisely. Madam Speaker, it is to be noted that figures are available only for deaths due to overdose. In 2019, 43 deaths due to overdose were recorded. In 2020, there were 40 deaths. In 2021, 50. In 2022, 41 deaths. In 2023, 39 deaths. And for 2024 up to June, 17 deaths.
Thank you, Minister. Yes.
Madam Speaker, from information provided by the Minister, I heard the number of overdoses recorded. How will he reconcile the number of overdose recorded compared with the death certificates that are produced, where this is never mentioned as overdose, mentioned as a consequence of taking drugs?
Yeah. Madam Speaker, as I've just mentioned, it is very, very difficult also at times for the doctor to certify that death has occurred as to what reason. And I would request the honourable member to be patient. A bill will be debated today, and all the details, the consequences, as well as the results will be found there.
It's a good day for discussing drugs today. Thank you, Minister. Next question, Mr. Lubin, first member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. B 377, please.
Madam Speaker, I'm informed that the offer of appointment to the grade of Headmaster in a temporary capacity for a period of 6 months was made to 260 officers in 8 different batches, starting on 16th December 2019. These concern the appointment of officers to the grade of Headmaster only, and they could not be appointed in a substantive capacity on completion of their 6-month temporary period, as 4 appeals were lodged before the Public Bodies Appeal Tribunal against the decision of the Public Service Commission regarding the appointment. You may wish to note that on 7th July, 14th and 19th December 2022, my ministry was informed that a tribunal had given its ruling whereby the 4 appeals lodged were all set aside on 8th June, 3rd and 11th November 2022. Madam Speaker, subsequent to consultation with the then Ministry of Public Service, Administrative and Institutional Reforms, my ministry was informed that the matter was not referred to the high-powered committee per se, but was rather dealt with in accordance with prevailing policies applicable in the public service and a precedent decision taken by the high-powered committee in a similar case. On 21st December 2021, the then Ministry of Public Service, Administrative and Institutional Reforms issued Circular Note 66 of 2021. Madam Speaker, I am tabling a copy of the Circular Note number 66 of 2021 containing the recommendations of the high-powered committee on precedent cases. It must be highlighted that the Circular Note makes reference to one main recommendation made by the high-powered committee at its meeting of 15th November 2021, whereby the retiring benefits of officers appointed in a temporary capacity and who have retired since 1st January 2016, that is the implementation date of PRB Report 2016, on attaining the compulsory age limit, and whose cases are still pending before the PBAT or Supreme Court, be calculated on the salary they would have drawn had they been appointed in a substantive capacity in the higher grade at the time of retirement, provided they have served for at least 2 years in the temporary capacity. However, following representations from aggrieved headmasters who had not been paid their retiring benefits, the then Ministry of Public Service, Administrative and Institutional Reforms was consulted anew on the duration of their temporary appointment, that is, whether it should be 6 months or 2 years. On 13th November 2023, the then Ministry of Public Service, Administrative and Institutional Reforms advised my ministry that officers who were promoted headmasters in a temporary capacity for more than 6 months and who would not have required any additional qualification for the substantive appointment would be eligible for the retiring benefits on the salary attached to the post of headmaster, as they fell within the ambit of both paragraph 1320 and 1340 of the PRB Report 2021 and the advice of the Attorney General's Office. My ministry acted on that basis, and 56 out of 68 headmasters who were eligible for payment of gratuity and pension benefits have already been paid. As regards the remaining 12 eligible headmasters, the Accountant General's Office has already been requested to effect payment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are you happy? Yes. The Honourable Third Member for Pamplemousses Triol.
Madam Speaker, question B 378.
Madam Speaker, I'm informed by the Financial Services Commission that during the period January 2019 to December 2024, 6 overseas missions, namely to France twice, Belgium, Brazil, Japan, and Isle of Man and UK were undertaken by the officers of the FSC Regional Centre of Excellence. Out of the 6 missions, 5 were undertaken by the head of the Regional Centre of Excellence, Mrs. K.R.H. In one of the missions in Isle of Man and UK, organized by the Small Countries Financial Management Centre, she was accompanied by the Senior Manager, Human Resources of the FSC, Mrs. S.T.B. This mission was funded by the organizer. In another mission to Brazil, she was accompanied by the analyst, Mrs. Z.I., and one mission in France was attended by an analyst, Mrs. N.S. Madam Speaker, regarding part A of the question, the cost of the 5 missions amounted to 935,943 rupees. As for the mission to Isle of Man and UK, as I said, it was fully funded by the organizer. I'm tabling a list of the overseas missions undertaken and the costs incurred for each of them. With regard to part B of the question, I am informed by the FSC that the missions were not jointly undertaken with other ministries. As for my ministry, according to records, no officers have attended those missions. And Madam Speaker, with regard to part C of the question, a report on the outcome of those missions is being tabled.
Thank you, Minister. Yes, Mr. Houtny.
Could the Minister therefore confirm that the head of the RC did not accompany the former Minister of Finance on any of these missions?
I will need to look into that. This is the information that I have so far, and it doesn't say whether she accompanied the Minister of Finance. She's attended 6 overseas missions, and all of them were either herself or with the persons I've mentioned. This is the information I've been given by the FSC.
You'll let us know.
Thank you.
In due course. Yes.
The Honourable Minister, please inform the House whether the per diem
of the head of the RC was generously increased beyond the rates applicable to the FSC staff upon the special request of the former CEO of the FSC. Thank you.
I do not have that specific information at this point in time, but I will look for it, Madam Speaker.
It looks as if you will have to look for quite a lot, from what I can see. Okay, members, are you happy for the moment? You're not happy? How can we make you happy? Honestly. Let's wait for the Minister to come with more information in due course.
I will table that information, Madam Speaker.
Don't be in a rush to be happy. Okay, where are we now? Second member for Rivière des Anguilles, yes?
Madam, question B 379, please.
Madam Speaker,
Yes.
I am informed by the Traffic Management and Road Safety Unit of my ministry that the Rivière des Anguilles Traffic Center project that seeks to facilitate the commuting of inhabitants to the market fair, the Rivière des Anguilles SSS found nearby, an existing residential Morcellement development, and future proposed developments such as Smart City, a shopping mall in the vicinity of the new station. With regards to part A of the question, I am informed that the traffic center covers an area of 6,453 square meters constructed over a plot of land of 8,900 square meters and comprising the following. Number one, construction of 5 concrete boarding platforms. Number 2, construction of 1 concrete alighting platform. Number 3, installation of 5 smart bus shelters. Number 4, construction of concrete footpath. Number 5, construction of 9 bus parking areas. Number 6, construction of drains and absorption pit. Number 7, asphalt work. Number 8, provision of street lighting. Number 9, provision of traffic signs and road markings. And number 10, construction of a green space and landscaping. Madam Speaker, the works began on 26 September 2024, that is before the general elections, and have been completed recently on 15 March for an amount of 24,593,622 rupees, inclusive of VAT. Madam Speaker, with regard to part B of the question, I am informed that the bus station is expected to start operation in and around mid of May 2025, next month. Madam Speaker, as regard to part C of the question, I am informed by the NLTA that buses of routes number 10, that is Mayberg to Rivière des Galets, route number 61A, QPIP to Benares, and route number 6, QPIP to Rivière des Anguilles, will operate through the Rivière des Anguilles Traffic Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Yes.
Sorry. Yeah, there is one missing part there. As regard to part D of the question, I am informed. I'm sure you would have asked me about the part D. I'm informed by the TMSU that for such type of projects, no feasibility study is conducted. I was quite surprised as well. Save for geotechnical investigation, which actually should form part of the feasibility study. However, consultations and several site visits with village councillors and the NLTA were effected to find the best suitable land for the project. Prior to start of the works, however, sole investigation was carried out to ascertain the suitability of the site. Madam Speaker, the traffic center has been constructed next to the market fair, close to the Rivière des Anguilles SSS, like I said earlier, and existing residential Morcellement development. Moreover, the traffic center will also facilitate commuting to the future developments such as the smart city and shopping malls already planned in and around the vicinity thereof.
That's it? No more?
Yeah, yes, that's it. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Jaman.
Madam Speaker, since no feasibility analysis has been made, assessment has been made prior to the project, I'm afraid to say that this project is likely to have the same fate as the Tanzab Traffic Center, where it is almost underutilized. Can the Minister take this matter with all those concerned to try to see how we can try to, engineering, try to divert some routes so that this traffic center is used to its maximum capacity?
Yes. As matters stand, we will only know whether the project is feasible and will not be a ghost town only when operations start. But if it warrants that other routes be channeled over there so that it becomes buoyant with activities, we'll do it. However, the proposed developments that were announced, I mean the smart city and the shopping center, if they come, I think this will enhance the value of this huge investment. Thank you.
Yes, third member for Port-Louis North. Mr.
Speaker,
Kazian.
B380, please.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to thank the honourable member for the question. And with regards to the apps, it seems there has been an explosion of mobile apps in the way it has been implemented. In the journey towards building a digitally empowered and inclusive society, Madam Speaker, ministries, departments and parastatal bodies, they have around 40 mobile apps. However, these applications were not done in a cohesive manner and the approach was not holistic. The ministry has been characterized by a series of lack of fundamental principles of what we call as establishing a digital infrastructure. It would be unimaginable that a country like Mauritius today does not have what we call as a disaster recovery site for our main government data center. Madam Speaker, this implies that should the Atal Bihari Bajpai building catch fire and the servers be down, all government services, including the parliamentary services, would not be available to the public. And this, to me, is really a crime when it comes to what this public expects us to do when we sit in this parliament. I wonder, we know why the people responsible for doing it in the previous government didn't have the time to do it. They were queuing up in Bur Dubai for the discotheques. Now, MoCloud is one of the apps on which the question rests. So it's good that I highlight to the House that MoCloud provides citizens with online access to official documents, such as birth certificates and marriage certificates. So a citizen can apply for these certificates and they can store it online in a secured manner. So this is what MoCloud does. MoCloud is available today. There's another app on which the question has been asked again, which is called MoPass. MoPass, it creates the bridge between the physical world and the virtual world, which means that if I have a mobile ID, this is my ID in the physical world. What is my ID in the virtual world so that the government can endorse any claim that I make of being the person I am or I claim to be? Therefore, this is what MoPass does, and it's a critical application for our digital infrastructure. And it is actually not surprising when we see that level of incompetence to state that MoCloud today is deprived of a legal basis. Now, this again is a matter that we are addressing with the Office of the Attorney General. A third application is Mon Rendezvous. It's good for the members of the House to know that Mon Rendezvous, it allows citizens to plan meetings, and it's been deployed for more than 7 years. To date, there are only 5,000 users of Mon Rendezvous. But it's good to know that the user, the department that uses MoCloud the most is the Passport and Immigration Office, so that we reduce the queues at the office there for passport application processing. But we still see the queues, which means that this app did not really meet its objectives. And the fourth one is MoWallet, which enables citizens to store their digital documents again. And this is applicable to Mauritius and all the outer islands. And it's good to know that everybody or all the users are suffering from the lack of features within these applications. And there are 2 others, or 3 others actually. So whenever there was a problem highlighted, the approach was, okay, let's develop an app to address that problem. But that's not how we want to digitalize the country, Madam Speaker. There has to be an approach. There has to be a strategy. There has to be survey. There has to be data. We don't just sit in an office in Eben and we wake up and we say, let's develop an app. An app like Mopri, Mobis, Mocourant. Qu'est-ce ça? You see, and all these apps, Madam Speaker, all these apps have cost money. It has cost taxpayers money, and the worst of all is that it has cost us a lot of time. And when we say that we've lost these 10 sweet years in terms of digitalization, when we realize the impact of that loss, the impact on our government processes, the impact on the expectation of Gen Z and Gen Alpha, it's big. It's really big because Mocourant and Mopri are not what our people expect. Our people expect to have a super app which actually aggregates all the government applications. This is what they expect. This is what they deserve. This is what they pay their taxes for. But the government has failed. And the Ministry of IT, represented by the previous Minister for IT, has failed miserably. Éclaté, some people say. Madam Speaker, there has been a low uptake of those uses, and interestingly, it is a well-known fact that we can't manage what we don't measure. And there has been no measurement of the uses of those apps. The user-friendliness of those apps actually tell that the apps were not really friendly to users. They were like an enemy to users, like don't use me. And we mentioned the absence of the legal basis. Madam Speaker, in the forthcoming blueprint for the ICT sector, priority has been set to actually rationalize all these applications into a single one so that it becomes a single window for all citizens for ease of access. And these apps will be user-friendly. My ministry has already started working on a single unified app, which will ensure streamlining of services, reduce redundancies, provide a standard interface, cater for multiple languages, and provide for the use of what we call a single sign-on. So with MoPass, you sign in once, you have access to a series of applications. And the committee is a multi-stakeholder committee that has been established within my ministry, together with the Central Informatics Bureau, Mauritius Emerging Technologies Council, Mauritius Digital Promotion Agency. This is an ambitious and forward-looking project, Madam Speaker. And we want to actually develop this in an efficient manner so that there is also a good uptake by the citizens. There will be an accompanying communication campaign so that we advise and we sensitize the population around the advantages of using this app. The whole objective, Madam Speaker, as has been stipulated in our government program, is to move citizens from being in line to being online. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you so much. Very interesting. Yes, Mr. Kazen, you're okay with that? Good. So now we go. Miss Antil.
B 382. Merci.
Madam Speaker, it is with much regret that I have to admit that the Residence Pay-Laval Municipal Complex is hardly operational during weekdays and weekends. It should have been open during weekdays from 8 o'clock to 18 o'clock and on weekends from 14 hours up to 19 hours respectively. Following the parliamentary question set by the Honourable Member, during the request for information stage, the Chief Executive of the Municipality of Catbone informed that the complex was operational during weekdays and weekends, and it had all the amenities that facilitated the organization of leisure activities for the citizens of the surrounding localities. However, during a site visit effected by the Honourable Member and subsequently by officers of my ministry, it was noted that the municipal complex and the indoor games were in a run-down state. The following has been observed: ground floor, hanging wires at several places, only one toilet operational and other toilet inaccessible because of having no handles, painting peeling off on certain parts of the wall, and play equipment not functional and are stuck in a corner. And on the first floor, leaking roof, toilet block needs repairs, fans not functioning, and painting peeling off. The general impression is that the building is not being used by the public. My ministry has instructed the municipality of Katbone to refurbish the complex accordingly and to replace all the indoor games. The attention of the chief executive is being drawn to the fact that answers to parliamentary questions should reflect the reality and the sanctions that public officers are liable to in case the August Assembly is misled by ignorance or false reply. I have also requested that disciplinary action be initiated against officers of the municipality of Katbone who have failed in their duties of care by not performing their duty for which they are being paid. Having said the above, the multipurpose complex comprised of social center at the ground floor and a hall on the first floor. Upon request, the hall can be rented for the organization of wedding, reception, birthday celebration, among others, subject to the payment of an appropriate fees. I am also of the view that the hall should be made available on Sundays and public holidays, subject to the payment of an appropriate fees, to enable the inhabitants to organize their activities. I will request my ministry to instruct the Municipal Council of Katbone to see to it that the municipal hall is available accordingly once it is refurbished. The refurbishment is expected to be completed in some 2 months' time. My ministry will monitor that the delay of the completion of refurbishing works is respected. Madam Speaker, it is sad to say that the government and the service to the citizens are the same at the level of some local authorities in the last few years have left much to be desired due to the laissez-aller of some officers. The basic rights for leisure of the people, that is the citizen, have not been respected and they have not been provided with quality service due to some partisan councillors. Madam Speaker, it is my firm intention to redress this situation.
Yes, Ms.
Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente. Madame la Présidente, je souhaite...
Ne criez pas.
Ah bon, je ne crie pas.
Non, non, c'est un peu fort.
Ouais, alors, Madame la Présidente, Madame la Présidente, je souhaite exprimer ma reconnaissance au ministre pour les mesures rapides qu'il a prises en réponse à la situation déplorable au complexe municipal de résidence Père-Laval. Le ministre peut-il informer la Chambre si une révision de la programmation des activités est envisagée en vue de redonner vie à ce complexe et de répondre aux aspirations clairement exprimées par les habitants de résidence Père-Laval. Merci.
Le ministre a déjà répondu. Puis il y a des élections municipales avec, j'espère, des nouveaux élus qui vont aussi, j'espère, faire leur travail. Je ne pense pas que le ministre peut répondre plus là. Je passe à la nouvelle question. Alors, Monsieur Kirin.
B383, please. Madam Speaker,
yes.
I have been informed that currently there are disparities in the working conditions of Kreol Mauritian educators in primary schools, particularly regarding the number of working periods, pupil-teacher ratio, and available resources. In terms of working periods, Kreol Mauritian educators, like those teaching Asian languages, are required to work up to 58 periods per week, ensuring that there is no disparity in this regard. Regarding the pupil-teacher ratio, the standard class size is set at 40 pupils. However, depending on the region and the number of pupils enrolled in KM, the ratio can range from 1:1 to 1:47 per class. If the ratio exceeds 30, additional support is provided by either another Kreol Mauritian educator or a supply teacher to ensure that the teaching environment remains conducive to quality education. Measures to address the situation, Madam Speaker, the recruitment of additional educators is underway, including the 51 trainees recruited in 2022, of whom 18 have successfully completed their training at the MIE. Further, 31 more trainees were recruited in 2024 and are expected to complete their training by 2026. Additionally, supply Kreol Mauritian teachers will be engaged for the year 2025, and recruitment procedures for these teachers will commence shortly. With the recent constitution of the PSC board, my ministry is committed to ensuring that the set norms and standards are complied with through ongoing recruitment and the mobilisation of supply teachers in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kira?
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Bien que le créole mauricien ait été introduit dans les écoles primaires depuis 2012, aucun deputy head teacher ni inspecteur d'école spécialisé en créole mauricien n'a encore été nommé pour assurer un encadrement pédagogique approprié. À quand, Monsieur le Ministre, pouvons-nous nous attendre à un changement dans le bon sens?
Madam Speaker, that is why we have this change. This has not been happening, rightly said by the honourable member, and this is something we are going to address. Whatever was not done properly by the previous government, we are here in order to address that issue.
Madame la Présidente, contrairement, je pense que l'honorable ministre a dû l'affirmer dans sa réponse initiale, contrairement aux enseignants de General Purpose, d'informatique ou de langue asiatique, les enseignants de créole mauricien ne disposent pas, dans certaines écoles, de salles dédiées pour l'enseignement. Donc cela paraît comme une discrimination. Et que compte faire justement l'honorable ministre pour y remédier?
Definitely, this also will have to be addressed because we do not want any streak of discrimination to exist in whatsoever school. Honourable member, thank you. Madam.
Would be unconstitutional. Thank you, Minister. Honourable First Member for La Caverne Phoenix. Mr.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. B 384, please.
Honourable Minister of Industry will be replying to this question.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to thank the Honourable Member for this PQ. This will give me the opportunity to shed some light on AGOA and the issue of US reciprocal tariff. Madam Speaker, with regard to Part A of the question, I wish to inform the House that African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, which became effective in May 2000, has been a lifeline for our industry operators to make inroads into the US market through duty-free and quota-free access for some 6,400 product lines. I wish to remind the House that the initial discussions on the Mauritian side around the establishment of AGOA were held in the late 1990s under the leadership of Dr. Navin Chandra Ramgoolam, our current Prime Minister. The AGOA was last renewed in 2015 for a period of 10 years and is therefore due to expire in September 2025. I am informed that prior to its expiry, government authorities took the necessary steps to initiate discussions with the US counterparts to forcefully lobby for an early renewal of AGOA in an endeavor for our exporters to have more visibility on the US market. There was a general indication that AGOA was set to be renewed for an additional 16 period up to 2041, following the AGOA Renewal and Improvement Bill that was introduced in the US Senate in April 2024. As the House is aware, on the 2nd April 2025, the US President came forward with an executive order to impose a reciprocal tariff of 40% on imports from Mauritius. I wish to inform the House that on the 7th April 2025, the Prime Minister chaired a meeting in the presence of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, myself as Minister of Industry, and the Junior Minister of Finance, also the Acting Financial Secretary, the economic advisors at the Prime Minister's office to take stock of the situation and decide on the way forward. Thereafter, on 8th April 2025, the Prime Minister made a statement in the House whereby he highlighted the importance of AGOA for Mauritius and the impact on the reciprocal tariff on our export. He also outlined the course of action that would be followed by Mauritius to safeguard the interests of the export manufacturing industry. The Prime Minister also informs the House that he is writing to President Trump with a view to discuss the concerns of Mauritius. Consequently, on 9th April 2025, the US government announced a 19-day pause on the new tariff and a lowering of the reciprocal tariff rate at 10% effective immediately. I should emphasize that with the coming into force of this US trade policy, the advantages enjoyed by our industry operators under AGOA would cease to exist. I should apprise the House that USA is our 4th export market destination for locally manufactured products such as wearing apparel, live primates, jewelry, fish preparations, medical devices, and optical goods, amongst others. As a matter of fact, domestic export to the USA stood at 6.8 billion rupees in 2024, with 79 enterprises exporting to this market. Out of them, there were 41 export-oriented enterprises exporting to this market. Out of them, there were 41 export-oriented enterprises exporting to the US market to the tune of 5.7 billion rupees. And out of these 41 export-oriented enterprises, 11 derive more than 50% of export revenue from USA. Altogether, these 41 enterprises employ around 21,000 workers, out of whom 10,000 are Mauritians. In the wake of the event of the recent imposition of reciprocal tariffs by the US government, I wish to inform the House that my ministry conducted a quick survey from the 7th to 10th April 2025 among the 41 export-oriented enterprises exporting to the USA to assess its potential impact on their business operations. Most of these enterprises surveyed have indicated that A, they have contacted their clients in the USA who are awaiting clarifications on the reciprocal tariffs applications by the US Customs Authority to decide on the way forward. B, there is a sense of uncertainty among some clients who have put their orders on hold. C, at this stage, it is still premature to assess the full cost implications and spillover effects on the new tariffs imposed on them, particularly if US clients proceed with cancellation of orders in the coming month. And they are envisaging to explore new market destinations. Thus, this process will take time to materialize. Furthermore, the Prime Minister will be chairing a follow-up meeting tomorrow, the 16th of April 2025, to have latest updates on the matter and to decide accordingly on the next course of action. Madam Speaker, with respect to Part B of the question, I wish to inform the House that the export manufacturing sector is already being supported through a host of measures, among which A, reduce corporate tax for 3% on profits derived from exports of goods. B, flexible work permit policies whereby there is no ratio, no quota for export-oriented enterprises. C, provision of a refund of 60% on basic air freight costs incurred on exports for all products to the USA and the market destination under the Trade Promotion and Marketing Scheme. D, provision of a grant of 25% of the basic ocean freight costs up to a maximum of 600 USD per 40-feet container exported to 47 eligible ports in Africa through the Freight Rebate Scheme. E, provision of a 50% subsidy on the Export Credit Guarantee Insurance premium incurred by enterprises when they subscribe to an insurance policy to cover their exports to all countries under the Export Credit Guarantee Insurance Scheme. F, provision for a subsidy on the rental and administrative cost of warehouses operated by Mauritian companies in Tanzania, Kenya, through the African Warehousing Scheme, and a refund of 500,000 annually for the SMEs participating in international fairs under the SME refund scheme. Madam Speaker, it has been a long-time policy of my ministry to move towards rebalancing our exports so as to cushion against setbacks in any one of our traditional markets, including the USA. In this vein, we consider that Africa holds promising potential for our industry operators in view of the fact that the AFCFTA, SADC, and COMESA free trade agreements have opened up the gateway for a more diversified market base. Furthermore, there is a need to consolidate and expand market outreach in Europe and also tap new opportunities in economies having high purchasing power, such as the UAE, Australia, and Japan. To conclude, Madam Speaker, my ministry will coordinate efforts with relevant institutions to urgently elaborate an action plan backed by significant financial and human resources to aggressively conduct targeted export promotion campaigns in these high potential economies by leveraging on free trade agreements wherever applicable, which was unfortunately not being performed by the Economic Development Board during the last 10 years.
Thank you very much. Yes?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May I ask the Honourable Minister whether government will envisage appointing a foreign consultant or a lobbyist in the United States to help the Mauritian government with regards to future negotiation with the US or in the aftermath of the 90-day of President Trump?
Yes, Madam Speaker, we already have a lobbyist doing this job, and we have a panel of experts working on this issue under the leadership of the Prime Minister.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Honourable Second Member for Maibou Plaine Magnan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. B385.
Madam Speaker, can I table this PQ? It's too long.
Yes.
The answer, yeah. The answer is too long.
That would be perfect.
Yeah.
That would be perfect.
No, it's too long.
Because we really want to move on a bit.
Yeah.
So please table. Don't hesitate. Okay, Mr. Apollon, is that all right? Can we deal with this?
It's okay.
Then we will come back.
No problem.
Got plenty of time. Next week, the week after, you know. Honourable Second Member for Grand Bay Poudre d'Or, Mr. Bijan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. B386.
Madam Speaker, I thank Honourable for the question. I'm informed that the region of Beau Plateau in Goodlands is developing and at present still sparsely populated. There are 3 licensed operators: Surplus Mobile Communications Limited, which is a subsidiary of Mauritius Telecom, MTL Limited, and Mahanagar Telephone Mauritius Limited, also known as MTML. They cover the aforementioned region with 2G, 3G, and 4G from their base stations, which are located in the vicinity of Goodlands. Additionally, Surplus and MTL provide 5G and 4G plus coverage within the same region. MTL and MTML have indicated that they have not received any complaints from the inhabitants and the users within that region. However, Surplus Mobile Communications Limited has confirmed that it has received 2 complaints from the same customer, one on the 2nd of July 2024 and another on the 21st of March 2025. Accordingly, and taking into consideration residential density and subject to necessary approvals from the relevant authorities, Surplus will proceed to identify an appropriate location for a mobile site. Typically, new mobile site deployment will take around 12 months, roughly, and depending upon the acquisition and the process, the speed at which the process is executed, including the building and land use permit, along with the regulatory clearance, we're looking at around 12 months. Madam Speaker, I would also like to add that, and in relation also to the PQ referenced B221, during the sitting of 25th of March, I informed the House that the Information and Communication Technologies Authority, ICTA, is currently implementing, in collaboration with a French network testing solution provider, NPERV, a quality of service measurement application that will allow any subscriber to test its internet service subscription and to report the results to the ICTA through the mobile application. What are we doing with this? we are actually empowering the end user so that they can assess the quality of the network. And in case they face difficulties, they can, with evidence that is revealed out of the mobile app, to send their request to the ICTA, and ultimately ICTA will communicate with the service provider. Madam Speaker, thank you.
Thank you. Maybe there are some microphones that are louder than others. Because no, it seems to me, I don't know. Maybe you should look into it. Anyway, now, was that okay? Was that answer okay? Il y a beaucoup qui ont été withdrawn là. Honourable Third Member for Pamplemousses.
Question B387.
Madam Speaker, with regards to part A of the question, I am informed by the FSC that the Regional Centre of Excellence was established in March 2019 following an MOU signed between the Government of Mauritius and the OECD in September 2018. The RCE operates under a governing board which advises on strategies and actions to be adopted. The objectives and mandate of the RCE are, firstly, to deliver capacity building programs aimed primarily at the financial services, regulators, and law enforcement agencies from the Southern and Eastern African region. Secondly, research topical areas relevant to financial services and financial malpractices for the regional market. And thirdly, advise on minimum standards as regards best practices, guidelines, and principles that must be introduced at the regional level. The RCE offers all its events free of charge, and Mauritius is the only country in Africa through the RCE where the OECD has a dedicated framework of cooperation in respect of the financial sector. Madam Speaker, with regard to part B of the question, I am informed by the FSC that the RCE has, as to date, carried out the following activities in accordance with its objectives. Firstly, in terms of capacity building, it has carried 17 workshops in collaboration with the OECD and 1 event with the CFA Society Mauritius. From November 2020 to June 2024, some 6,530 participants from approximately 113 countries have been trained. In terms of trainers, 111 trainers delivered virtually and 81 trainers provided training in person. With regard to the second objective of research and advice on policy, on the basis of the workshops carried out, information gathered and research carried out, 4 publications have been issued in relation to the events hosted by the RCE. Firstly, the blockchain adoption in Africa trends in market activity and policy development. Secondly, open finance in Africa and open banking in sub-Saharan Africa. Thirdly, fintech lending in sub-Saharan Africa. And finally, sustainable finance trends and development in Africa. Madam Speaker, with regard to part C of the question, I am informed by the FSC that the annual expenditure of the RCE amounted to 8,691,146 rupees and 6,007,019,505 rupees for the years 2023 and 2024 respectively. And these were co-financed by the FSC and the Bank of Mauritius at 50% each. This excludes grant agreements signed with the OECD, and the amount, I am told, cannot be diverged as it is part of a grant agreement between the OECD and the FSC. Madam Speaker, with regard to part C of the question, as regard the RCE operates under strategic oversight of its governing board, which reviews and approves its activities and associated costs. I'm also informed by the FSC that the RC's budget is subject to a two-tier approval, namely by the RCE Governing Board and subsequently by the FSC Board, thus ensuring accountability. It is also important to note that the OECD has a strict budget reporting regime, internal controls and accountability mechanism which are applicable to its financial management structure and system, and ensure that the expenditure of public funds is transparent and represents value for money. Madam Speaker, with regard to part E of the question, I am informed by the FSC that the MOU between the Government of Mauritius and OECD was signed in September 2018 for an initial duration of 2 years, and thereafter it has been extended in October 2020 for a duration of 5 years ending September 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Mr. Oufni, yes?
Madam Speaker, could the Minister please confirm that the transparency requiring OECD is now requiring secrecy about the grant given to FSC?
It's the other way around, I think. If I'm not mistaken, grant given by OECD to FSC or the other way around?
OECD to FSC.
FSC, okay.
So the grant is provided by the OECD to FSC through to finance partly the operation of the research center. But I have been told, I need to get legal advice, that I have been told that legally we are not allowed to disclose the amount.
Of the grant agreement?
Yes.
Okay. Yes?
Could the Minister advise if 17 workshops over the last 6 years could be considered as meeting the objectives of the RC?
I will need to come back on that, Madam. It's a judgment that we will have to do on whether, you know, those sessions that have been held, whether they meet the objective. It's a judgment that we'll have to.
Of course. Yes, Mr. Oufni, that's enough. You're happy this time? You're happy this time? Okay. Now, Mr. Kazan, Honourable Third Member for Port-Louis North, yes?
Yes, B388, please.
Mr. Speaker, I'm informed by the Road Development Authority that the main objective of the Ring Road project is to relieve traffic congestion in and around Port-Louis, as well as to improve connectivity between the city and the north, south, and western parts of Mauritius. In fact, the first phase of the Ring Road network, which was completed in the year 2014, and which currently provides access to the Swami Vivekananda International Conference Center and the surrounding areas, is only part of the major link of the Ring Road project. The complete Ring Road project comprises 2 additional phases as follows. First, phase 2, extending over a length of around 4.7 kilometers, will start the Ring Road phase 1 project at Pai. It will cross Coin Bluff, Mountain, and Monroe Hill through 2 tunnels and will connect to the end of Boulevard Victoria and to Trangbar through a grade separated junction. Second, phase 3, extending over a length of around 2.85 kilometers, will start at Valley Pito and will continue as a new route parallel to the military road, connecting Nicolet Road at Plaine Verte and Motorway M2 through an interchange between Kédé and Mer Rouge roundabouts, and will end at the port near the container park via a dedicated overpass. The complete Ring Road forms part of the National Road Strategy networks of the RDA, designed to support the sustainable development of the island by providing safe and fast connectivity, addressing traffic congestion, and allowing decentralization. Madam Speaker, the Ring Road Phase 2 and 3 projects will require massive investments, and in view of the budgetary constraints of government, as elaborated in the State of the Economy report, it is proposed to implement the projects in phases to be scheduled in the years to come.
Thank you. If I may, at this stage, we don't have much time left. I got 3 questions. I would like you to help me to go through with these 3 questions. Thank you. Ms. Anquilles? Honourable Second Member for Belrose, yes?
B389.
Madam Speaker, a request for funds for an amount of 553,882,752 rupees was made to the Ministry of Finance for financial year 2024-2025. This amount was calculated on the basis of forecasted expenditure and forecasted revenue to be generated, including contributions from Council's own funds and probably efficiency gain. However, I am informed that for the financial year 2024-2025, the Municipal Council of Catterbourne was provided with a grant in aid of 344 million rupees only. As of 10th April 2025, it has generated a revenue of 110,644,246 million rupees to date, and the total revenue available to the Council is then at 454,644,246 rupees. It is noted that the Ministry of Finance anticipated that the contribution from the Council's own fund for an amount of 25 million rupees and probably efficiency gain to the tune of 44,288,770 rupees. This never materialized. Madam Speaker, the Local Authorities Governance Unit of my ministry undertake a mid-term review of all local authorities, including the Municipal Council of Catterbourne, in the months of December and January every year. During that exercise, the Council has informed that its revised expenditure is then at 543 million rupees, 543,458,908 rupees. In view thereof, based on actual as well as forecasted revenue and expenditures, the forecast in budget deficit would be around 89 million rupees. Madam Speaker, the deficit situation of the Municipal Council of Catterbourne is a reflection of what is happening in other local authorities also. The result of inadequate funding being provided by the Minister of Finance is that additional grant in aid for all local authorities have to be sought in March each year. This demonstrates a clear lack of foresight on the part of the former government, which was more concerned in dilapidating public funds for their own motives instead of addressing the real issues. Honourable members must have read now how the fund from the Mauritius Investment Corporation, that is the MIC, have been diverted to unauthorized use. Had the same fund been injected in the local authorities, many projects for the common good of the citizens could have been implemented. Madam Speaker, I wish to reassure the House that the midterm review exercise has already been carried out and a request for additional grant in aid to the tune of 89 million rupees has been formulated in order to cater the current budget deficit and for the good running of the Municipal Council of Catterbourne.
Thank you, Minister. Miss?
I thank the Honourable Minister for his answer. Should we understand that the Municipal Council of Catterbourne, that they spent more than they were allowed? Did they get approval from your ministry? Thank you.
Short and sweet.
Yeah.
C'est direct, ça.
Madam Speaker, in the Council we have every expenditures will have a vote, and it's depending on the vote that they
connais très
get.
bien les municipalités.
Exactly.
N'oubliez pas.
So all the expense is being made according to the votes. So we can't overspend on the same vote. Yeah.
Next, you have another question, Ms. Santil? No. Okay. Next question, my honourable member for Rivière des Anguilles.
Thank you, madame. Question B390, s'il vous plaît.
B290, yes, Minister.
Madam Speaker, my ministry currently imposes price control on 34 categories of essential commodities for Mauritius, and out of which 12 commodities are controlled under the maximum fixed price mechanism, which includes scheduled bread, LPG, mogas, and gas oil and flour. In addition, there are 22 commodities comprising of more than 24,000 products which are controlled under the maximum markup mechanism, including milk powder, breakfast cereals, infant food, edible oil, pharmaceutical products, and basmati rice. For Rodrigues, there are 22 commodities which are now under maximum markup mechanism, such as animal feed, edible oil, canned poultry, canned tuna, and cheese, among others. There are 14 commodities under maximum fixed price, including fresh fish and garlics. Moreover, my ministry is already providing relief to consumers through the provision of subsidized flour to consumers with a subsidy of 8 rupees and 4 cents per half kg. Long grain white rice with a subsidy of 8 rupees and 30 cents per half kg. And for a 12 kg LPG cylinder, a subsidy of 386 rupees and 68 cents is being granted. The government is already disbursing an estimated amount of 5 billion rupees per year for the maintenance of those subsidies in order to make the essential commodities affordable to the vulnerable household, both in Mauritius and Rodrigues. It is in fact that Mauritius is a highly import-dependent country and is highly affected to the disruption on the international markets and exposed to foreign exchange volatilities, variation in supplier prices, and changes in the freight costs. My ministry has initiated a series of actions to protect consumers against upside volatilities in prices and protect consumer interests. Madam Speaker, in order to ensure affordability and accessibility of essential commodities, my ministry has recently introduced maximum markup on frozen packed vegetable and canned vegetable, and is currently working on extending maximum markup on other essential, frequently consumed commodities for both Mauritius and Rodrigues. I also wish to inform the House that a proposed list of essential commodities is being finalized for bulk importation at lower prices, for which partnership with international suppliers will be explored in order to increase access for all consumers and reduce inflationary pressures. Furthermore, continuous market monitoring and analysis on the prices of essential commodities on the market are ongoing at the level of my ministry. The latest finding of such exercise revealed that following the intervention of the Bank of Mauritius in order to stabilize the value of the rupee and to control inflation, the prices of several essential commodities are witnessing stability and notable decreases in retail prices, since the beginning of the year 2025. These includes products such as infant milk, baby food, processed cheese, pasta, breakfast cereal, basmati rice, canned sardines, and corn mutton. Madam Speaker, as regards to unfair practices, my ministry has inspected around 3,000 trade premises across the island since the beginning of the year, including supermarkets, shops, pharmacies, bakeries, hardware shops, trade and market fairs, among others, have issued 343 contraventions up to date. Furthermore, the Consumer Protection Fixed Penalty Notice Amendment Regulation 2025 were promulgated to strengthen the enforcement of sanctions against unfair commercial practices. Since their implementation on 31st of March 2025, a total of 31 traders have been issued fixed penalty notices in accordance with the revised fines. Madam Speaker, additionally, in line with the measures announced in the government program 2025-2029, my ministry is currently working on different legislation in order to A, prevent any unwarranted increase in price in times of emergencies and crises, and to prevent the holding of products for sale at higher prices in the future, which is a crucial step in creating a marketplace that is not only fair but also resilient in times of uncertainty. And B, protect consumers from unscrupulous traders who have a tendency to increase their profit margin by reducing the size or weight of a product. This will enable consumers to compare prices based on consistent units and as such empower consumers with the information they need to make informed purchasing decisions while discouraging deceptive business practices. Last, but certainly not the least, I am pleased to announce that the new Consumer Protection Bill has successfully completed its drafting stage with a view to addressing the evolving challenges in the marketplace. The bill represents a significant step forward in strengthening consumer rights and enhancing protections against unfair business practices. The bill is expected to be presented to Cabinet soon, and thereafter it will be introduced in the National Assembly. The bill represents a cornerstone of our broader consumer protection agenda, and once enacted, it will significantly enhance the confidence and security of consumers in our economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Madam Sabapati. Last question.
Thank you, Madam B392.
Madam Speaker, with regard to Part A, first part of the question, I have been informed that Kreol Mauritian is currently being taught in 189 primary schools, comprising 143 public primary schools and 46 Roman Catholic Education Authority primary schools. To support the effective teaching of the subject, a total number of 229 educators are available. I am tabling the number of Kreol Mauritian educators who are currently serving in primary schools. With regard to Part A, second part of the question, I wish to inform the House that no shortage of Kreol Mauritian educators has been reported to my ministry today. However, I am informed that 6 KM educators are currently serving 2 primary schools where the pupil population studying KM is low, pending the availability of supply teachers for this subject. I referred to that issue earlier to the previous PQ. As regard to Part B, there are 67 public primary schools where KM is not currently taught due to a lack of demand for the subject. However, due to the establishment of new residential areas, 8 of these schools have recently requested the introduction of KM. Regarding the last part of your question, I enlisted the measures in the previous question to Honorable Kia. Thank you.
Thank you. Time is up. Time is up.
Motion.
Honourable Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that all the business on today's order paper be exempted from the provisions of paragraph 2 of Standing Order 10.
Yes, seconded by the Deputy Prime Minister. The question is that all the business on today's order paper be exempted from the provisions of paragraph 2 of Standing Order 10. Those in favour say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
statements by ministers.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, with your permission, I wish to make a statement with regard to the Sugar Investment Trust. The Sugar Investment Trust is on the verge of an economic collapse. It is owned by some 40,000 small planters who own 95% of the company. The remaining 5% shareholding is owned by government. The Sugar Investment Trust has accumulated a debt of around 1.6 billion rupees over the last 10 years. It is being driven by deficit at all levels and within all its clusters inter alia, land holdings, leisure, property, and corporate services. The Sugar Investment Trust is generating losses to the tune of 150 million rupees annually and debt level increasing by around 10% annually. This recurring trend from the last 10 years has led to a deterioration of the asset base of the company, coupled by deep negative cash flow and a fragile balance sheet with all its assets encumbered with charges and pledges. Overdrafts are being employed to pay salaries and other auxiliary dues. The previous management has been engaged in massive mismanagement and inaccurate reporting. The situation of the SIT is as follows. In 2014, the SIT share valuation stood at 15 rupees per share and has since been depleted of its value by more than 92%. The net asset value per share has fallen to 1.78 rupees. The SIT has pledged all remaining assets against debt. In 2014, the SIT had a land bank of 7,000 ARPA and is today left only with 2,100 ARPA. The sale of the land has been made with no benchmarking, no official valuation, and conducted in an unprofessional manner, discounted by more than 40 to 60% below market rate, normal market rates. In many instances, related party individuals, that is directors and other related entities, have engaged with the SIT to purchase these discounted lands, never settle accordingly, but continue to harvest sugarcane thereon. The proceeds of the above land sale have never been employed to repay outstanding liabilities, but rather to relaunch property projects with overstated costs and understated selling rates. According to SBM, loans of the SIT are close to reaching stage 3, that is close to entering seizure proceedings. The SIT has invested in the rental building at Eben named the Core. This asset has cost the SIT 876 million rupees and has totally been financed by liabilities. The return on investment on this building is very low and is not adequate to service the debt incurred thereof. The Sugar Investment Trust income stream comprises of 30 million rupees from rental, 35 million rupees from 10,000 tons of sugarcane cultivated on 265 hectares of land, which adds up to approximately 65 million rupees. Finance costs are in excess of 115 million rupees, which rendered SIT insolvent. The debt capital is not being serviced at all since 2014, whilst interest is being serviced partly. 12.8 million debt have been taken from DBM Limited to undertake sugarcane cultivation in 2023, but it never happened. The SIT Leisure Water Park has been running on losses to the tune of 2 million rupees per month since 2015, while hefty and finished investment have been apparently vested in this park without any feasibility plans or report. At this instance, the park is in dangerous state and requires immediate closure. 100 million rupees have been invested in 2018, without any strict plans, and further 250 million rupees have been normally vested with a loan from a bank. None of these investments can be seen at Belmar. Many contracts from service providers have expired in 2020 and have never been renewed by normal practice of tendering. The service suppliers have continued to be remunerated, often at higher than market rates, which is totally illegal. Loans undertaken and proceeds of sale of land cannot be matched against projects and cash flows. Accounts provided are totally flawed and against international financial reporting standards. It is inconceivable to see that the SIT has sold in excess of 5,000 ARPA, but still bears a debt of more than 1.6 billion rupees, together with a negative cash flow. And as of today, arrears relating to rental stands at 50 million rupees. Madam Speaker, a proper forensic audit is warranted, as the SIT and firms may be employed for same should the need arise or given strong suspicions of frauds and corruption. The matter may be directly referred to the Financial Crime Commission for a more in-depth forensic investigation. Meanwhile, my ministry is presently looking into the restructuration of SIT for the organization to become effective and efficient. I hope we can do it.
Thank you.
Public bills, first reading.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the supplementary appropriation 2023-24, number 2, bill number 8, be read for the first time.
Seconded by the Deputy Prime Minister. Yes, Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the supplementary appropriation 2024-25, bill number 9, be read the first time.
Seconded by the Deputy Prime Minister.
Motion.
Honourable Prime Minister.
Yeah. Madam Speaker, I beg to move the following motion standing in my name. This Assembly is of opinion that in view of the enactment of the Finance and Audit Amendment Act of 2025 and the introduction of the performance-based budgeting, it is necessary and expedient that the Standing Orders Committee be and is hereby empowered to look into the standing orders and rules of the National Assembly 1995 presently in force. More specifically, Standing Orders 73, with a view to making recommendations for the necessary changes to be brought to the provisions relating to the procedure in connection with the appropriation bill.
Yes, it is seconded by the Deputy Prime Minister. Yes, the question is that this Assembly is of the opinion that in view of the enactment of the Finance and Audit Amendment Act 2025 and the introduction of performance-based budgeting, it is necessary and expedient that the Standing Orders Committee be and is hereby empowered to look into the Standing Orders and Rules of the National Assembly 1995, presently in force, more specifically Standing Order 73, with a view to making recommendations for the necessary changes to be brought to the provisions relating to the procedure in connection with the appropriation bill. Those in favour say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Honourable members, in accordance with Standing Order 69(3)(b, the matter stands referred to the Standing Orders Committee. We can go on if you want. Well, if everybody wants us to go for tea, I don't mind. But I thought maybe... Up to you. It's up to you. Let's break for tea. Let's break for tea. Laissez les neurones se reposer un peu.